Hamas has outlined its vision for phase 2 of the ceasefire agreement in Gaza. It has proposed releasing all remaining Israeli captives for Palestinian prisoners and detainees in a single swap. In a statement, Hamas spokesman Hazem Qassem said, "We are ready for a second phase in which the prisoners will be exchanged in one go, and that would need to be within the criterion of reaching an agreement that leads to a permanent ceasefire and a complete withdrawal from the Strip." Earlier, Hamas announced it will release the bodies of 4 Israeli captives on Thursday and 6 more who are still alive on Saturday. The group says it's showing flexibility as a sign of its commitment to the ceasefire deal and calls on Israel to do the same. Nour Odeh reports from Amman.
A bittersweet breakthrough in Gaza ceasefire talks. Hamas has announced it will release the bodies of 4 Israeli captives ahead of the agreed-on timeline. They include the remains of Shiri Bibas and her children, Ariel and Kfir. They were killed in Gaza, reportedly in an Israeli airstrike in November 2023. The boy's father, Yarden, was freed earlier this month. In exchange, Israel will set free half of the women and children Israeli forces took from Gaza during the war. It's not clear how many Palestinians were forcibly disappeared or how many remain alive. Israel refuses to disclose that information. Another breakthrough.
On Saturday, the 22nd of February, the remaining 6 living Israeli captives who were due to be released in the first phase of the agreement will be released. Among them, Hisham al-Sayed and Avira Mengistu.
Hamas captured Avira Mengistu and Hisham al-Sayed in 2014 and 2015, respectively, after they infiltrated the Gaza borders. Among the Palestinians scheduled for release on Saturday are 47 prisoners Israel handed over in exchange for captured Israeli soldier Gilad Shalit in 2011, then detained again in 2014. Hamas is hoping this apparent flexibility will help mediators pressure Israel to fulfill its end of the ceasefire agreement, namely allowing mobile homes, tents, and heavy equipment into Gaza. Families of Israeli captives have promised to keep up pressure on Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to strike a deal that would bring home all of the remaining captives. Israel is dispatching Ron Dermer, a confidant of Netanyahu and the Minister of Strategic Affairs, to lead negotiations on phase 2 of the ceasefire. The negotiations are well behind schedule, and the mediators have to make sure Israel doesn't resume the war before a deal can be finalized. Nour, Al Jazeera, Amman.
We can go now to Hamdah Salhut, who's in Jordan's capital, Amman. She's there because the Israeli government and the Palestinian Authority have banned Al Jazeera from reporting from inside Israel, as well as the occupied West Bank. Hamdah, first of all, can you just talk us through Hamas's latest proposal and how Israel has responded to it, if at all yet?
Well, Hamas's latest proposal says that they will release all of the remaining Israeli captives, including male soldiers who were abducted on October 7th, in exchange for an end to the war. And what's different about this proposal is that we wouldn't see it over the course of different weeks like we are now seeing in phase 1. It would be a one-time release of all of the captives in exchange for a complete withdrawal of Israeli troops and an end to the war. There's been no official Israeli response to this, but it's worth mentioning that within the Israeli political realm, especially among the right wing, it's not really a popular idea to end the war and leave Hamas in power militarily and politically in Gaza. It's something Netanyahu says that Israel is going to achieve, the absolute destruction of Hamas in both of those aspects, but it's unclear as to how. Earlier this week, the Israeli Prime Minister finally agreed to dispatch an Israeli negotiating team for phase 2 of the talks after weeks of delay, but it's still exactly unclear what Israel is looking for out of phase 2. Netanyahu says he wants to extend phase 1, according to reports within Israeli media, in order to release more captives. But Hamas is adamant about being committed to the deal and wanting to see it through, as are the family members of Israeli captives and former captives who are speaking both in the Israeli parliament and at protests, saying that this deal needs to be seen all the way through because it's the only way to ensure the release of the captives.
The next step is the release of 4 captives' bodies back to Israel. Do we know how that handover is actually going to work on Thursday?
We don't exactly know how that handover is going to work. It's going to be much more sensitive, of course, than what we've been seeing every Saturday with captives who are alive. So this Saturday, we're expecting to see 6 captives who are living to be released. These are the 6 captives who were supposed to be released over 2 weeks, but Hamas has agreed to release them in one batch. However, the bodies of the Israeli captives to be released on Thursday, Hamas says, are of the Bibas family, Shiri and her 2 children. But according to reports, Israel has told mediators they don't want any sort of show of force around the transfer of these bodies, that they want it to be incredibly quiet and calm out of respect for those who are deceased. But it's unclear exactly how Hamas plans for that exchange, how the Red Cross will be involved. There hasn't really been any sort of confirmation from Israel on who those bodies will be of, but we have had those statements from Hamas saying who they will be of. So it's still a little bit unclear, as it's an incredibly sensitive situation and incredibly dynamic week to week, as there have been accusations of violations of the deal. There have been changes now in the amount of captives that will be released. So as the deal moves forward, this Thursday, we are expecting the remains of 4 Israeli captives. This Saturday, the 22nd, we will see the release of 6 captives who are alive. And finally, on the last day of phase 1 of this deal, March 1st, which is next Saturday, the remaining 4 bodies of the deceased who are set to be released as part of phase 1 will be transferred to Israel.
Okay, thank you so much, Hamdah. Plenty of moving parts here. Hamdah Salhut for us there in Amman.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.